As we've said before, there's two kinds of slavery. There's Eved Ivri and there's Eved Kanani. Eved Ivri is a Jew who owns another Jew as a slave. That is primarily a form of indentured servitude. It lasts, at least in the planned scheme of things, for a maximum of 6 years. And someone becomes an Eved Ivri either because he is so totally impoverished that he cannot at all support himself, and so he sells himself into slavery, or in cases of certain kinds of thefts which the thief cannot repay, then the Beit Din sells that person into slavery so that the debt can be repaid. And mitzvot 344 to 346 give us more information about the Eved Ivri. 344 prohibits a master from assigning demeaning work to an Eved Ivri. Mitzvah 346 prohibits a master from requiring an Eved Ivri to do oppressive work, and we'll talk about what that means in a second. And 345 prohibits a master from selling an Eved Ivri at public auction. And so the author pauses as he's about to discuss these mitzvot to say that an Eved Ivri is just another ordinary Jew who's out of money. It is a reflection of economic status and nothing else. And if you think you're better than your Eved Ivri, what goes around comes around. It could be him today. It could be you tomorrow. So that the master is required to treat the Eved Ivri with a level of respect. And the author says somebody who buys an Eved Ivri buys himself a master. The master is required to provide, the author doesn't give a source for this, but he says the master is required to provide the Eved Ivri with living conditions comparable to the master's own. You can't give the Eved Ivri table scraps. You have to give the Eved Ivri whatever it is you're eating. You can't put the Eved Ivri on a pallet on the floor if you've got a waterbed. The Eved Ivri gets the same basic living conditions as the master does. And the author pauses to point out that although slavery in his society was much less common, certainly not unknown, but less common apparently than in the biblical period, and again you see him using the notion of shoresh, he says when we have this kind of arrangement, the master develops character traits of compassion, and the society in which we all live feels like a respectable, honorable society. There are people who financially can't make it, but people are being treated with respect. And the author then says, and we come to we can almost predict it, it's not just the Eved Ivri. Anybody who's down on their luck, any poor people, anybody for whom you might have an opportunity to take advantage of their having very acute needs, you should understand that those same character traits of treating people with respect and creating a society in which it feels like I can be an honorable member based on the institutions of that society apply even if it's not technically a situation of slavery. So again, you get this sense of the way the author uses the notion of shoresh that we've seen now, gotten very familiar with. Aviva.
Unless they're not Jewish.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Although in terms of, leave aside Eved Kanani for a minute, in terms of just the way we treat anybody that we interact with, there's no reason why this notion of, it inculcates good character traits in me to treat somebody else who's down on their luck respectfully. There's no reason to limit that to Jews in terms of the way that the author understands the shoresh working. We'll come back to Eved Ivri in a minute because he's very uncomfortable with it. Right?
Is there a corresponding mitzvah that prohibits the Eved Ivri from doing the hard or contemptible work?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so he's not liable for punishment, just the owner. this the
Yeah.
master is.
Yeah.
Because we see somewhere it's both ways.
Yes, this is, as far as I know, is I'm not aware of anything that makes it go both ways. So the source verse for this mitzvah compares the Eved Ivri to a day laborer or an immigrant who takes on work as hired household help. Gee, things never change, do they? And the difference being that the day laborer or the immigrant hired household help, if they don't like the conditions of the work, can quit. And the Eved Ivri cannot. But this is being set up as, think about this Eved Ivri as somebody who could quit if the conditions are bad enough. And make sure that you treat the Eved Ivri in a way so that the conditions aren't that bad. And again, we have these two mitzvot giving us two different categories of work. So 344 prohibits the master from assigning the Eved Ivri degrading tasks, and the examples that the author gives are, carrying the master's clothes to the bathhouse, or carrying around the folding chair in case the master wants to sit down. But the real cutting principle is not the examples. The real cutting principle is, if I hired a day laborer and said, this is what I want you to do, would the day laborer take it or not? Right? Yeah, it's not a question of how hard it is.
Sorry, we left you cheerless.
It's not a question, neither of these mitzvot are about how hard the work is. It's really about the social status and the psychological impact. And so here the question is this socially so degrading that even a day laborer would not agree to do that? The guys are lined up in the parking lot where you pick up and you drive up and you say, oh, this is what I want you to do, and they look at you and say, no, even I won't do that.
So my question is this really, really considered degrading, carrying something like this? I mean, why weren't they picking some really disgusting kind of work?
Yeah,
I mean, is it like, an avodah on Shabbos where carrying doesn't necessarily mean that you can't lift something heavy in the house?
I don't know. Here's what I would want to do. I'd want to ask a classicist what the meaning of these actions were in the Roman period. Right? Tell me socially what these kinds of actions meant in the Tannaitic period. Because it's the social context that we need and that we don't have.
Well, you can just imagine how demeaning it is to sort of run around, with a cloth in your hand, or, having to put it somewhere. I assume that's what it was, put it down so the person can sit on it, or, just...
Washroom attendant, let's say, who hands the paper towel. I don't think they have that too much, but I saw it in the movies. They just hand a paper towel. They have to stand and sit in the...
Yeah, I don't know. Again, we don't have
it in Broadway. I mean...
We don't have the social context.
No, I think that's supposed to be fancy schmancy.
I
think it's just the opposite.
However, the attendant,
the person doing it, maybe, but
I mean that's.
I see those movies where they have these giant fans made out of some kind of a tree, and they're fanning.
Oh, so that's a palmetto. Yeah, that's the Egyptian.
They must be hot too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, really the standard here that we have here, without the social context for these examples, is what would a day laborer think twice about doing? Because it's just like, I don't want to do that, I'll go work for a landscaper, I'll go work for a contractor cleaning up, but I wouldn't do that.
So do you get to a situation where there's just so little you could tell them to do? Do you know what I'm saying? If I would say, I don't want to vacuum, it's not something I ever enjoy doing, I'm not doing it.
No, I don't think so. I think, something like, part of the job of the Eved Ivri is to clean the house is not...
But I think maybe emptying out the chamber pots might be something that would be...
I don't know. I think it's really a social...
That would be more...
But you'd think that they would choose that as an example, right? That's what I meant, something
maybe
like that.
Maybe they didn't have chamber pots.
that had chamber pots.
I think that predates everything.
Maybe it's a more public thing. If he's following you around outside.
Yeah,
and
that's
other people
interesting.
see it. So that's, he'd have to be there, everybody else is there. So it's like, feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so it's hard to tell, and luckily this is not a mitzvah that has really any applicability, at least not directly anymore. So exactly figuring it out is maybe not so crucial. 346 prohibits the master from assigning the Eved Ivri oppressive work, and here the definition I think is a little clearer. That includes work that doesn't need to be done, or work that doesn't have a fixed end. So it literally precludes busy work. Right. The master cannot ask the Eved Ivri, I really don't have anything for him to do today, so I will ask him to cut the lawn that was cut yesterday, and it's not in the spring where that could happen, right? It's in August.
So this is what interns do.
So it prohibits the master from giving the Eved Ivri work to do just to keep the Eved Ivri busy, or giving the Eved Ivri work to do where the work is not needed.
Not medical interns, but interns that substitute in different departments, and you try to make up work that they're going to do, because these are high school or college students who are supposedly
getting something out of this, so you have to try to find something.
And you can't just send them to the file room anymore because there's no paper to file.
Or work without a clear end. And here the author gives the example of you can say to the Eved Ivri, weed the garden, or weed this much of the garden, but you can't say to the Eved Ivri, weed the garden till I get back. You can say weed the garden till 2 o'clock, but you can't say to the Eved Ivri, just keep weeding till I come back, whenever that happens to be. Without, I mean, I'm sure that it's not a violation mitzvah to say, I'm going down the block to talk to my neighbor, I'll be back in, 10 minutes to 20 minutes, keep weeding till then. But this kind of open-ended, just keep working till I don't know when, is what's prohibited. And again, it doesn't matter if the task is easy or difficult. That's not what it's about. It's about the psychological component. The last of the mitzvot in this set is 345, which prohibits selling an Eved Ivri in public or at auction. Now, the master can sell the Eved Ivri,
But just not public.
but not public.
Discreetly.
Discreetly.
I noticed it one stop. Not standing out on the street with a big sign.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if a notice in one stop would violate this mitzvah or not. But again, if you read the history of slavery in the United States, the notion of a public auction and how it's demeaning.
Big prize right now.
So these mitzvahs, the author says, apply only when Yovel was in effect. So again, it's part of this Yovel package that we've talked about before. And it applies to men, these mitzvot apply to men and women, although the author reminds us women are not supposed to own an Eved. But if it happens that a woman ends up owning an Eved, then these obligations apply. So it's not going to be an exception to these, that the woman is not supposed to own the Eved, so she can treat him any way she wants. That is not how it works. Okay. 347 deals with Eved Kanani, which is a situation where a Jewish owner owns a non-Jewish slave. And this is real slavery, although, at least in the theory of the halacha, it is a very interesting institution. And the author explains the unique status of an Eved Kanani. First of all, none of the protections that we talked about in the prior 3 mitzvot apply to an Eved Kanani. right? You can give the Eved Kanani all kinds of demeaning work to do, all kinds of oppressive work to do. You can sell the Eved Kanani in public, etc.
Which would then go against what you were saying before, where, we're supposed to develop, compassion and
absolutely correct.
That was only his argument against
And,
Rambam.
well, but you can see the author's discomfort. Because when he talks about the shoresh here, you can see that he's not. He's got to justify why is this okay.
Mm-hmm.